Hi, my name is Dana of Daylite Knits, and I'm here for part 2 of the Flexi-flip Cozy Memory blanket. And I wanted to introduce a couple ideas about the blanket that I didn't mention in the first video. And one of those is this, you can see this pattern of diagonal lines that go through regularly through each part of the blanket, because the mitered square is oriented to go with its the starting point to the ending point up to the right, as you can see, and then each one after that is to the right. It makes a really uniform visual look, appearance by doing that. It makes it very cohesive and I think more organized and more neat than having them go every which way. Plus, in the way that I set up this this blanket is that I started, I'm going to show you the very first square was this pink one here. I'm going to put a little progress keeper marker on it on this corner to remind me that I attach all squares starting from the lower left hand corner or always on the left side of the blanket. And then you might see also that I have these things pinned to the back, and what I have here is the name of the yarn dyer and the colorway, so that not so that but so that I can graphically chart all the names of these squares, all the names of these squares, and I just pinned them as I added them, and this is so that later I can do a graphic of all the squares and write down the names of who dyed the yarn and what the yarn's name was. And this is just so I could keep a record of these special hand-dyed yarns. And I didn't dye the yarns on this blanket. I did dye some yarns on my first blanket, but most of the yarn dyers came from minis that I got through my subscription of Row 1 yarns. And so most of these, and I did repeat, most of these are those particular skeins from Row 1 yarns. So you can see Machete Shop and Backyard Works and Emma's Yarn and Wobble Gobble and Earl Grey Fiber Company, and I'm not sure who did Shark's Holiday, but Old Soul Fiber Company did also do some of these yarns. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know about the overall plan on this, what the overall plan on this blanket was, and that might help explain how and why I do it the way I do. But I picked the Flexi-flip for making the cozy memory blanket, and the reason was because it could do a 90-degree turn. And I don't think it has to. I mean, the yarn can stretch out straight for a DPN or even a circular knitting needle. But this just made it seem, I don't know, to me, easier. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to jump right in, and I am going to put this sharper end in to the loops to pick up 20 stitches of my 41 stitch cozy mitered square for my cozy memory blanket. And earlier I was talking in the first video about having 3 dogs and that being too many. And so I just wanted to apologize up front if my dogs interrupt my video. They might. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So I have the 20 stitches on my needle so far. I am going to pick up 1 stitch from the middle of the prior row's square, and I'm going to then go and pick up 20 stitches on the first square I did in the first video, and then I'm going to start. That's my dog. That is my year-old puppy, who is a Labradoodle crossed with a Airedale doodle, making her a double doodle. And she's very high energy. She has a very high prey drive. I got her so that I could train her to be a service dog, my service dog. The reason I want a service dog is because I have lupus and it attacks my joints and my eyes. I might need a service dog. I'm not sure she's the right dog because of the way she acts with the high prey drive, but she's a puppy still, so there's time. So anyway, you can see how the Flexi-flip just makes that square. I'm going to take this yarn and I am going to start the second square, and I'll show you how I do it again, like as in the first square. So I just go ahead and knit across the square, and the first time I knit across, I will not slip the first stitch like I will in the subsequent rows. I will go just knitting all the way across the 41 stitches. I won't make a double decrease the first time I go, because essentially this is just picking up the stitches, not really knitting across. Along with lupus, I'm recovering from a long major depression episode, and I find that knitting is the jam that keeps me going, makes me better. And so I knit to live. I knit to live. I'm knitting in the second square on this blanket. Or at least on this video, I'm going to knit through the back loop because that is the orientation of that loop. I knit with the leading leg of the stitch. This would be the leading leg. I knit with that first. So since it's positioned with, since it's positioned in this way, I knit through the back loop, and that makes the stitches even and not twisted. They're oriented the same. They're from the first pickup square I did to this first in the row. This blue, light bluish square. And also the way that I orient my squares in the blanket to make it visually appealing, I put a lighter square next to a maybe a darker square. And I'll show you what I mean when I get done. So I knit the first row, or the pickup row, and I'll knit across the back of the row, in the next row, back here. And then on the third row that I've knit so far, I'll do the double decrease in this corner. Please forgive me if I stutter. I'm not sure if it's a mental stutter or a physical stutter. Who knows? Or maybe it's just old age. So here you can see a darker, a lighter, a darker, a lighter, a darker. And this one, you know, sometimes it was hard to tell. I would say this would be a darker square and this would be a lighter square, but then I sort of, you know, I didn't keep to that real hard and fast rule. In the first blanket that I made, I liked tonals better, but I get a lot of these variegated squares like this with the row 1 yarns because the dyers, I assume, like to, you know, put more colors in their skeins rather than just have it all one tonal quality there. And so that's why this blanket seems to be mostly variegated yarns, because those are the minis I get from row 1 subscription. Anyway, so I'll go back here, and on the back, you might notice that I leave the ends out, and I'll do that. I'll do a whole row of 13 before I sew in the ones that are the ends that are hanging out. So here I go. I'm going to pick up and start knitting the back side of this square. And I'm not sure whether if I'm just jumping to conclusions about what my audience knows, but I know that I'm speaking to people who like to do the cozy memory blanket, and I'm speaking to how I do my cozy memory blanket. And I think that some viewers, I think that some viewers might enjoy the Flexi-flips as well. So I slipped the first stitch because that puts this wonderful edge on that's really easy to pick up. So I slipped the first stitch, and then I begin to knit all the way across the back of this square. And you can always tell you're on the back side because you'll see this telltale little design that you see on the back side, because on the front side of my squares, I always make sure that I knit on the right side of the work first for the right side, so that I get this very clean line between my squares. So as you can see, that's what I did here, is I started in this corner and knit this way to make sure that I was on the right side of my work, and my lines between would not be like this on the front with the little row showing through the square on the other side. So And you can probably hear my puppy howling out there in the dark at my sheep. I have 2 Shetland sheep wethers, and I leased 2 ewes and a ram of registered Shetland sheep because I love to knit with Shetland wool. And I have sheared my own sheep, and I'm currently spinning the wool from my ewe that I had that died this year recently, and she had the most beautiful fawn colored wool, and so soft, so fine, a very super fine merino like wool, super fine Shetland. And so I have about 3 or 4 fleeces that I have to process and finish spinning. And my goal is to knit a sweater out of my used fleeces. Her name was Mickey. And there's my puppy wanting in. She wants to stop howling. Maybe somebody would let her in. Thank you very much. So I think I filled in some of the gaps in explaining what's going on with my knitting here. I hope I stayed in frame there. So I have 3 dogs. I have that very active, gorgeous doodle. She's a cinnamon color. And then I have this really old Jack Russell. He's 108 in human years. He's 16. He is kind of grouchy all the time, and he's always growling at my puppy. So I'm sorry for the noise, I guess, what I want to say. And again, I like the sharper point to start with my right hand needle. So I'm going to knit across and I'm going to count to 19 stitches, and then I'm going to do my double decrease in the middle. So, oh, here's my puppy. Come here. Can you stick your nose up here? Here you go. Come here. Stick your nose up here. Come on. Come on. Come on. Right there. Can you see it? What's there? Good dog. Anyway, she wants me to pet her. Sorry about that. I'll maybe show you the dogs in a future video. I'm not prepared. I'm hiding behind the camera right now, doing a tutorial. Maybe eventually I'll get in front of the camera again, but after the very first podcast, knitting podcast, I never came back because of my major depression and my working and this doggy. What a doggy. And she keeps nudging my elbow, interrupting me. Well, let me see how many I have on this. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Don't want 20. I want 19, so let's see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 19. And then I'm going to slip, knit, and then pass the 2 slip stitches over the knit stitch. And then I'm going to go on, and I should have 19. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Woohoo! Right number stitches. So there you go. I got you through your first square, and I started the second square, and I'm not going to finish it while I'm doing this tutorial. I would do that in a knit along, I think, but that's how you use Flexi-flips with your cozy memory blanket. My name is Dana, Daylite Knits. I'm hoping to come back. Please like and subscribe and make comments below. One of the people that got me started with the knitting was, in the very beginning, was, who was it? Oh, I forgot I was gonna say, but it was Very Pink Knits. She got me started. I made a dress of one of her patterns, and it came together perfectly from start to finish, and I hadn't really been knitting. And from there, I just kept going, and then the knitting helped soothe my anxiety, and so I kept going. And then I have a few favorite YouTubers that I like to watch, and one of them is the Fry Life. And I had just been watching tonight a newer podcaster to me, and her name is Foxy Knits or Blog Knits or Foxy Blog. Anyway, she's new to me, and so I was watching her. Very Fruity Knitting is one of my all-time favorite podcasts, of knitting podcasts, but I watch so many different ones and really enjoy them, and so now I'm jumping in, and hopefully I will be welcomed into that community for connection with my people, knitting people. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Not sure when that'll be. Thank you. Bye.